In this video, I'll be helping you guys master the most difficult track on F122, Monaco, by slowing down this lap and learning each corner step by step. Okay then guys, so starting off a lap, open up DRS in third gear, make sure you pick up the throttle as early as you can and then you're just bombing it down to the first corner, Sainte Dévote. As you get there, just before you reach this white F122 sign right in front of us here, that's when you want to start braking. In 7th gear, down into 4th gear, straight line braking, and then you want to turn in. Make sure that the car is riding over the curb. That's where you want to be, or else you're going to be using too much of the track on the left hand side and you're going to lose time going uphill. Pick up the throttle as you're getting onto the curb. Very tricky. You want to risk it in qualifying, might not want to risk it in the race just in case the car slides out. Going uphill now, you need to pick up the throttle as soon as you can, or else you're just going to be losing time all the way up here. But this next corner, very tricky. 7th gear, usually use this zebra crossing right here as a reference point. Right as I pass it, that's when you want to light braking and then downshift into 4th gear. You want to still be on the brakes around about here, just because you still want the car to be stable through here whilst also carrying as much speed as possible. Then by this point you pretty much want to be off the throttle. You're going to be off the throttle for just a teeny bit, maybe half a second or so, and then you want to pick back up the throttle again, very light. You don't want to go anything past say 30% or something like that, or else you'll lose the back end. And then for this corner, very simple, even though it looks tricky. As you reach this first F122 white sign, that's when you want to basically turn into this next corner here. Lift off the throttle and then turn in. And then as you're getting towards the curb, that's when you want to pick back up the throttle. As usual, the earlier you get on the throttle, the faster you'll be. So pick back up the throttle as soon as you can. And then some people might short shift up to 5th gear here just so that they can minimize the revs of the car. I chose to stay in 4th and just try and use my right foot as best as I can to power through that. Then you want to miss this because that is a very dangerous section of the track. It will just spin out the car. Even if it doesn't, you'll still lose time. And then coming up to the end of sector 1 now, this is when you want to start braking right before this white patch on this fence here in 5th gear, down into 2nd gear, and obviously we're going downhill, so you want to make sure your trail braking is pretty good. Now if you don't know how to trail brake, I will have a video link in the description about that, so make sure to go and check out that video on trail braking. Anyways, down into 2nd gear, brake in a straight line and then bleed off the brakes. Carry as much speed as you can here, then pick up the throttle early, short shift up to 3rd gear in this section so you can keep the rear of the car more stable. And then this corner there, the hairpin, one of the slowest, in fact I believe it is the slowest corner in Formula 1 right now. I usually use this Armco or whatever it's called, green sign, as a reference point. As I'm about to hit it, that's when I just light on the brakes, down into 2nd gear, and then you want to hold the brakes right until you get around about the middle of the corner here. What I like to do going into the corner is for a millisecond just flick the car to the right and then flick it back to the left. Since it's a very slow corner, you obviously want to pick back up the throttle as soon as you can. That will just come with practice when you can and can't pick up the throttle without hitting this right hand side here. And then after that, you want to bring the car over to the middle of the circuit. You don't want to be too far left or else you're going to lose time in this section. So just bring it over to the middle, still in 2nd gear. And then this is one of the only times that you're actually going to be using the curb around Monaco. Even in real life, I'm pretty sure they use this curb there. So you definitely want to use this curb just so that it helps rotate the car. Very tight section here, so you want to try and not hit this barrier, of course. And then for this section here, just as you're passing the underside of the bridge, that's when you want to slight brake, short shift up to 3rd gear, turn the car in early. For some reason, turning the car in early and then just getting on the throttle is quicker than actually doing it normally. So you want to turn in early, pick up the throttle as soon as you hit the curbing, and then boom, just bomb it down to the next corner. And I'd like to thank everybody who's on the screen right now for being channel members. If you do want to support the content past just liking and subscribing, make sure to click the join button underneath the video to learn more. So this corner now in the tunnel, you can lose your time if you don't know what you're doing. Now usually on F1 2021 and previous games, you would just stay on the inside and use the path of least resistance. However, on this game, the way the car bottoms out actually does affect in this tunnel section. Your car will bottom out and you'll lose a little bit of time going down into the next braking zone. So what you want to do is stay out wide until you reach the corner and then start turning in, and you'll miss that little bump. The car won't bottom out and you'll still carry all that speed that you have down to this next corner, which is right here. 7th gear, just in between the 100-meter board and the pole right in front of it. You want to start braking from 7th gear down into 4th gear, and then just as you get to this section here, right as you're about to turn in to the corner, that's when I downshift into 3rd gear one last time, taking as much curb as you can, or as you dare really. In the race you probably might want to miss it more times than not, just to not risk it. Whereas in qualifying, you're going to want to take that risk. and use as much of the track as possible. So yeah, as you can see, it can beach the car. So yeah, it's pretty crazy the way the cars can bottom out in this year's game. But moving on to the next corner now, 6th gear, just after the 50-meter board, light dab on the brakes, and then downshift into 5th gear, carry the momentum in, get on the throttle as soon as you possibly can. This next corner is completely flat. I'm pretty sure in the race you might want to lift if you're on hard tires or something with full fuel, but in qualifying, fully flat through this section. And then I use this sort of bush here as a reference point. 6th gear, as you come into it, just as you're reaching it, you want to probably about say 5-10 meters beforehand, you want to brake in 6th gear, trail brake into this corner down into 4th gear, and then you pretty much want to pick up the throttle right as you've passed this first part of the chicane, so that you can carry all that momentum down to Rascasse. So as you get around about here, you want to pick back up the throttle. In qualifying, you want to use this yellow sausage curb as much as you can. But in qualifying, you want to take that risk. It doesn't spit you out as much as it would in real life, for example. But in the race, you probably want to miss that just to avoid ending up getting wing damage and stuff like that. And then going up to Rascasse, I believe 5th gear, just as you're coming up to this arm cosine, roughly around about here, you can use the black F122 logo as a reference point on the right hand side as well. And then as you get here, light on the brakes, you want to be straight here because it's a very difficult corner. You'll be turning left going into the corner, then it suddenly wants you to turn right, which is obviously very difficult on the brakes and the tires. So try and brake in a straight line. Actually make sure that the car goes wide into 2nd gear, and then bring the car back in for a tighter turn in for the second part here. And then you want to be as close to this fence on the right hand side as possible without touching it, of course. Use the momentum, 2nd gear in here, and then for the final corner, use this orange patch on the fencing as a reference point. Turn into the corner in 2nd gear, maybe short shift up the 3rd gear just before you get onto the throttle here, because it is a sort of uphill then downhill section which can unsettle the car. So you want to have as low revs as possible. Then you open up DRS, and that is pretty much a lap around the most difficult circuit on the F1 calendar right now, Monaco. So what I'm going to do is show you guys a lap that I did in real time so that you can see how I tackle the circuit, and then we'll move forward from there. Okay, so that is pretty much how to tackle the most difficult circuit on F122. I hope that this video was helpful to you guys. Make sure to let me know in the comment section how much time you were able to gain thanks to this track guide. Make sure to click here so that you can see all the other track guides that I've done, and then make sure to click here so that you can see the trail braking video that I mentioned earlier in the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.